The outrage over the president's decision to grant absolute pardon to U.S. Marine Joseph Scott Pemberton continues to escalate. The protesters are raising questions about the fairness of the president's decision. That would mean he is allowing the U.S. to, and they quote, and we quote, trample on Philippine sovereignty and the dignity of Filipinos. What is the reason behind the release of Pemberton? Will this further complicate the Philippines' relations with the U.S.? We discuss in this episode of the Chiefs. Welcome to this Tuesday edition of the Chiefs. And of course, with us right now are Ana Marie Pamintuan of the Philippine Star, Luchi Cruz Valdez, the head of News 5. And I'm not sure if Rob is coming online as well tonight. Maybe he is in a while. Anyway, ladies, welcome to welcome back.
Good evening.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday. Did you get to watch the president's
Yes.
address last night?
Special mention ang Philippine Daily Star, no?
No.
Oo. Nagbago na ba kayo ng pangalan? I haven't seen your masthead lately. Baka nagbago kayo ng masthead.
Puro kasi star yung nakikita doon, di ba? Yung malaking
Okay. Ang bilis ng sagot niya. Nakapaghanda ka ng sagot kagad.
Siyempre.
Okay. Ana Marie Pamintuan of the Philippine Daily Star. Let me correct myself. There you go. But interestingly, the president defended his decision to grant absolute pardon to convicted U.S. Marine Joseph Scott Pemberton. Absolute pardon. And I think we discussed this a bit last night, but tama-tama, tonight we are discussing this fully with, if I get it right, both the counsel of the Laude family and the counsel of Pemberton as guests tonight.
Mm-hmm. Okay. See, no need for segue.
Sige, let's go straight to it na. I understand our first guest for tonight will be the legal counsel of the family of Laude, si Attorney Virginia Suarez. Good evening, Attorney, and thank you for joining us in the Chiefs.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Ed. Good evening, Ami and Luchi. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat.
Good evening.
Magandang gabi po. At salamat po for joining us tonight. Ma'am, I'm certain you've seen the president's statement with regard to Joseph Scott Pemberton, yung pag-grant niya ng absolute pardon for Pemberton, and how he defended his decision to grant absolute pardon. If I recall, one phrase that stuck to my head was ang sabi ng Pangulo, you have been unfair to Pemberton, and it is up to the president to set things right and in a way to give justice. From your perspective po, saan, kung meron man, saan naging unfair dun sa kaso ni Pemberton?
Yes, Ed, that is something that I do not understand. First, I guess he should have asked his spokesperson, Harry Roque, because Harry Roque was the former counsel, and he knows everything that happened in this case. There is no basis for the alleged unfair treatment. If there is any unfairness that happened, it is unfair to the family of Laude, and it is unfair to the entire Filipino people. Why? For the following reasons. One, from the very beginning, we never had any custody of Pemberton until, that was October 12 until December 19, when he under the custody of U.S. He has been held at Camp Aguinaldo, a facility of the U.S. Second, during the entire hearing, there have been at most 16 U.S. soldiers in. Third, when he was finally convicted, despite the order for the police officers to send him to national believed prisons, our police officers in Olongapo inside the court were rendered inutile. They were not able to even approach Pemberton because all the American soldiers actually surrounded Pemberton. And immediately thereafter, he invoked VFA the DOJ and the VFA Commission all agreed with the council that yes, he has to be held at Camp Aguinaldo. And then, since then, serving his sentence inside a very privileged facility in Camp Aguinaldo. And now he's saying Pemberton has been unfairly treated. I mean, he has given all these privileges. Our Filipino convicts do not enjoy the same privileges.
Actually, there's so much speculation.
Well, in effect, the
Supposed
Hmm.
presumption of good character na kino-quote ko kay Presidente at saka yun ang sinasabi niyang unfair treatment. We're wondering now, many people are wondering, what could be going on? I'm sure you're speculating as well as to why the president would think that it's about time to set, things right for Pemberton, and why the hurry, considering that that particular GCTA case is being heard at the Olongapo RTC. Ano mga spekulasyon nyo?
Alam mo, unang-una, talagang maski yung sinasabi niya, no, na sabi niya, itong si Pemberton ay yung good conduct, no? Buntahan natin yung good conduct. Sabi niya kasi wala naman daw ebidensya. There's no evidence that Pemberton daw ay nagwala. As
Yes.
if kapag nagwala, wala kang good conduct, at kapag hindi ka nagwala, may good conduct ka. I mean, that is wrong. Why? The GCTA law, no, enumerates the parameters of good conduct. First, active participation mo sa rehabilitation program, productive participation mo sa authorized work activities, and exemplary deed. There are no evidence of all this. Now, kaya there is really no basis for for him to invoke good conduct. Second, the JCTA law, the implementation of it is suspended, has been suspended since August 2019. Remember the case of Antonio Sanchez. Remember all those allowed freedom because of GCTA. They were ordered again to return, otherwise they will be arrested. And since then, it has been suspended. And that's why I do not understand why suddenly this will be implemented for Pemberton. Third, Pemberton should have been disqualified. Why? He committed an atrocious act. The manner by which Jennifer Laude was killed is very atrocious. And there is a definition of heinous crime in the GCTA, and the killing of Jennifer Laude will fall under that. Therefore, I mean, there is really no basis for good conduct. And that's why it is really, I cannot understand. And there must be some reason, there must be another reason for the granting of absolute pardon. Remember, I must say we are in a pandemic, and there are so much news about the corruption and everything.
Yes.
I mean, is this some way of diverting the issue from the corruption, from the very big corruption where his favorite Duque is very much involved? I mean, we really have to think of all this, because suddenly when he was discussing about this COVID, and then he made he suddenly think of pardon and granted it to Pemberton. And then we also have to think that as of this time, there is an ongoing talk between the Philippines, the US, and the Australia about the coming back of the US soldiers using Subic again as a port, taking over the Hanjin. And recently, of course, like 2 months ago, there is this grant of $2 billion to the Philippines, all for the purpose of buying arms. So these are the prevailing situation. At lahat ng ito, no, papasok talaga sa isip ko. Ito marahil ang napakaraming rason why suddenly biglang merong pardon.
Attorney, follow-up ko na dahil binanggit niyo na yung GCTA. Homicide kasi case ni Mr. Pemberton, kaya hindi siya heinous crime. Anyway, yung GCTA, sinabi niyo na in other interviews na wala na kayong habol dahil absolute pardon, it's a presidential prerogative. Pero yung sa GCTA, hindi ba Bureau of Corrections lang pwede magbigay nun? Are you planning to to pursue this angle in connection with the judge who was the one who determined na meron ng ganong GCTA credit na pwede kay Pemberton. Meron pa ba kayong balak na pursue yung angle na yon?
Alam mo, yun ang nakakainis sa pangyayari na ito. Kasi the absolute pardon practically cuts short everything. Mababaliwala nito yung usapin sa korte. Mababaliwala lahat yun kasi may absolute pardon na. Ami, i-correct, I mean, I have to clarify this. Yung yes, the crime for which Pemberton was convicted was homicide. But then in the GCTA law, ang sabi doon, ang mga disqualified ay those charged and or convicted of heinous crime. Remember, ang charge kay Pemberton is not homicide. He was charged for murder. Although later on, he was convicted of homicide. So, sa GCTA, may sarili siyang definition. For as long as you are charged and or convicted of murder.
Ma'am, attorney, just to follow up on Ami's point, I think Ami was also pointing out na under the GCTA law, it is the MSEC or the MSEC, the management and well, I forget the rest, but MSEC. It's a 5-member body that makes decisions on the GCTA. Was it the prerogative of the judge to order Pemberton's release? We know that it's moot already at this point. Pero was it the judge's prerogative to order his release or not? And if it is not, would that be an avenue for you to file a case against the judge in that case?
Yes, that's correct. We actually questioned the jurisdiction of the court. And even if he has jurisdiction, we question also the basis upon which the computation of the credits was given to Pemberton. Everything we question that. Because, yeah, precisely, you are correct. It is only the Bucor who can actually grant the good conduct time allowance. And even if, and there should be a recommendation from the Monitoring, Screening, and Evaluation Committee.
Yeah,
and it should be approved by the director. So indeed, the judge overreached her power in granting, in issuing that order of release because that is not her function. That is an executive function. And yes, all these things happened in the court without even furnishing us a copy of every pleading, without even informing us. There is a violation, both of substantive or procedural due process insofar as we are concerned. But then that's why we're really thinking, like, what can we do about the judge for what she did? And what can we do about Attorney Flores for what she did? Because Attorney Flores even instructed my client, Marilu, not to inform me about all this. The fact that she goes directly to my client, the fact that she would like to meet my client because they are already willing, they are already ready to pay. Of course, my client informed me, but I find it very unprofessional and unethical. And I told Attorney Flores directly that I take offense in what she did, going directly to my client. But then again,
so what are your plans?
These are the things. These are the things that we are discussing. We are contemplating.
Okay, what
But
will
still on the purpose
for the family of Jennifer Louden now that an absolute pardon has been granted, or have you been given instructions by the family on how to move?
Alam mo, yung family, they really feel so devastated. Talagang ang unang I'd like to share, ang unang sinabi ni Marila, akala ko kakampi namin ng presidente, akala ko galit nga siya sa mga Amerikano, pero bakit biglang may pardon? Si nanay, ang sabi naman niya, nag-text ang si nanay, dahil si nanay Julita ayaw talaga niya magpa-interview, but she said masakit yung loob niya dahil bumalik na naman sa alaala niya yung lahat ng ginawa ni Pemberton. Kasi parang pakiramdam niya, hindi, basta lalaya na, hindi pa natatapos yung sentensya. Kaya yung buong pakiramdam niya, and I remember yung sabi nga ni nanay, kahit pa binayaran na no, yung civil liability. Ako, I'd like to share, ang sabi ni nanay, walang katumbas na pera, walang halagang katapat, walang perang sasapat sa buhay ng aking anak. At yun yung eksaktong salita ni Nanay Julita.
Attorney, what about
Sa kanila, alam nila at piniliwanag ko that
yes, attorney,
yes,
sabi ni Corporal Pemberton, well, the camp of Pemberton said na he is willing to issue an apology. Kahit written lang daw, hindi daw personal. Tatanggapin ba yun ng pamilya or are they expecting an apology?
5 years na ang lumipas at they did not receive any apology. Even at the time that he is invoking good conduct. No? Ang tagal na ng proseso pala sa court. We don't know, July pa or June pa. He's invoking good conduct. Pero the simplest way of showing good conduct is apologizing. After all, you have already withdrawn your appeal. You already withdraw your appeal, and therefore you already admitted killing Jennifer Laude, and then still he never thought of apologizing to the family. Now, Attorney Flores said that she would instruct Pemberton to apologize to the family. It only shows it's all the dictates of the lawyer. It's all the thinking of the lawyer, but not coming voluntarily from Pemberton. So I don't see any sincerity in the apology.
All right. Maraming salamat sa inyo, Attorney Virgie Suarez. Thank you for your time. Good evening.
Thank you po. Thank you.
Thank you also, Ed, Lucy, and Annie. Thank you so much. Good evening.
Thank you po.
Here,
I think we're going into a gap first. Yeah, but ladies, I think we're supposed to go into a gap first before we come back for the attorney of Joseph Scott Pemberton.
Now
Sorry?
Now we go straight to Attorney Flores
How do we go straight?
from the Pemberton side. Yes.
We can bring her in now.
Okay.
Attorney Flores, good evening.
Okay.
Good evening po sa inyong lahat.
There you
Good
go.
Magandang gabi po. Thank you po for joining us.
Yeah.
Salamat rin po sa inyong
Well,
invitation.
anybody want to start first or shall I go first?
Go na.
Attorney, if I may, sige po. If I may po, I'm sure you also monitored last night the president's statement where he defended the absolute pardon for Joseph Scott Pemberton. The same question I asked kanina kay Attorney Suarez. Ang sabi po ng Pangulo, we have been unfair, or sabi niya, you have been unfair to Pemberton. From your end po, from the end of Pemberton, who was unfair to whom? Who was being unfair to your client?
Sige po, papaliwanag ko yan ha, nang maintindihan po ng mga taong nagsasabing unfair. Alam nyo, kung saan po kinulong si Pemberton sa Camp Aguinaldo po ngayon, is the result of an agreement between the Philippines and the United States. Pemberton had nothing to do with that decision. Now, after 6 years of staying in that jail, now suddenly, people are saying you should not be entitled to GCTA because you're staying in that jail. Anong klase pong primitibong country ang maglalagay sa iyo sa isang jail na iba pala ang epekto dun sa mga ibang tao na nasa ibang jail? If he was told po na, sa bilibid ka ikukulong dahil doon may GCTA, or you have a choice, doon ka sa Camp Aguinaldo pero walang GCTA, o sige pumili ka. He had no choice. He was placed there, no? He was detained there for 6 years. So ngayon natin sasabihin hindi siya entitled to GCTA. Second, yung GCTA po is a very clear law. May mga exceptions po yan, among them yung mga tumakas, una, at pangalawa po yung mga recidivists o yung paulit-ulit pong gumawa ng krimen. Si Pemberton po does not fall under any of those. So the GCTA does not distinguish whether ikaw ay covered ng VFA, whether ikaw ay Filipino, Amerikano, whether ikaw ay nakakulong in isolation, or whether ikaw ay nakakulong sa bilibid. Wala pong distinction yan, GCTA. Ngayon, nagre-reklamo po na dapat hindi sa kanya i-apply dito. Ano legal basis nila? Wala po. Galit lang sila, period. That's it.
Okay. Pero anong masasabi niyo
Pero attorney, in which case,
na ni Attorney Suarez just now na under the GCTA law ang crime ni Laude ni Pemberton na homicide ay pwedeng mag-fall under GCTA dahil nga and or pala yan, charged and or convicted. So he was charged with murder, though he was convicted for homicide. Tama ba sa tingin nyo ang interpretasyon na yon? So, kumbaga, pwede talagang mag-apply sa kanyang GCTA. Or hindi dapat siya i-exempt sa GCTA.
Alam nyo, yung GCTA law po, meron talagang diferensya yan eh. Because it makes a distinction na wala namang dahilan para gumawa ng distinction. Under the GCTA law, ang sabi po, pag ikaw ay charged with a heinous crime, okay
Yes.
po, like murder, katulad po ni Pemberton, dapat po, hindi mag-apply sa iyo ang GCTA during preventive imprisonment, okay? But if you are already convicted, ngayon, doon po mag-a-apply sa iyo yung GCTA. Di ba po, it doesn't make sense? So, ang ginawa po ng IRR na naging effective simula po September, by the way, mali po yung suspended yung IRR because yung September po of last year, nakagawa na sila ng amended IRR. Ngayon po, ang ginawa nila, sinasama nila yung lahat po ng heinous crime na hindi naman po nakalagay sa GCTA. So, dapat po talaga ma-amend yung GCTA. But, hindi po yan lang ang dahilan kung bakit nagkakaroon ng issue tungkol sa applicability of GCTA. Because po yung kliyente ko, nakakulong po siya, kinulong simula October 22, 2014 to December 15, 2014 during the time po of preliminary investigation. Kahit sino pong Pilipino sa buong Pilipinas po, hindi dapat ginagawa yan. It's tantamount to illegal detention. Kasi po, dapat may charge sa'yo, may probable cause, may information bago ka po malagay sa kulungan. Pero yung kliyente ko, even before ma-file ni Marilu Laude yung kanyang complaint on October 15, 2014, October 13, kinulong na po si Pemberton. No reason. Suspicion lang.
Sa tingin niyo po
So
ba
ngayon po, sandali lang po. Ngayon, anong pinakount namin po ang Bucor? Sige, i-count nyo na. Dahil sa totoo lang po, at first, ayaw kaming bigyan ng Bucor ng computation, no? Anong pinakount namin? Sabi ng Bucor, inamin nila, hindi namin alam kung ano gagawin namin during the period nasa preliminary investigation stage. Nakakulong na siya. Because ordinarily, hindi yan nangyayari sa ibang Pilipino. And ayaw nilang bigyan ng credit si Pemberton kahit nakakulong na siya because hindi po yan naaayon sa batas. So, double jeopardy po yung kliyente ko. Kinulong na siya ng mas mahaba sa dapat. Ayaw pa siyang bigyan ng actual time served. Ayaw pa siyang bigyan ng GCTA. And that's the reason why we had to go to the court because it's a very gray area. It was not simply the administrative function of counting. Kailan ba siya mabait? Kailan ba siya salbahe? It was a judicial controversy that could only be resolved by a court.
Attorney, anyway, ano na yan ngayon naging moot na siya, no? Because of the absolute pardon. Have you talked to your client since then? Kasi ang sinasabi ng Bucor ngayon, they are expediting the process of his release. Meron na ba kayong rough timetable kung kailan siya kasi na-swab test na daw siya, fingerprint, in-update yung mugshot. Mukhang malapit-lapit na siyang ma-release, no? And kahit sila, Mr. Lorenzana, sabi nila, wala na kaming pakialam dyan, bahala na Bucor dyan. Do you have a rough timetable kung mga within 1 week kaya makakalabas na siya?
Hindi ko po alam kasi bukod po dito sa Olongapo case, meron din siyang order of deportation issued by the Bureau of Immigration.
Pero sinabi
And,
po ng gobyerno, hindi na daw kailangan yun eh. No more need na daw for deportation proceedings. Kaya mabilis na mabilis siya actually eh. So hindi na pa.
Well, alam niyo po parang meron pong misunderstanding eh because ang nabasa ko po sa mga tweets sabi po ni Secretary Guevara hindi na kailangan ng parang order to deport him because the court can just lift an HDO, a whole departure order. But there's no whole departure order against him. What was issued against him is a deportation order. And for the deportation to be actually executed, kailangan po merong mga compliance with certain requirements. He has to submit an NBI clearance, among other papers. And yung NBI clearance po, hindi ko alam kung gaano kabilis po nila mai-issue, but they also need to take fingerprints and pictures of my client.
Pero
Kailan po siya huling nakausap?
I'd like to go back to your earlier points dun sa coverage ng GCTA. Even if we assume that he is covered by the GCTA, ako kasi personally think whether you're American or a foreigner or a Filipino, you are covered by the GCTA kasi there's no distinction in the GCTA law with regard to your citizenship. So baka there's no question whether or not you can be covered by the GCTA. But I suppose the other question is whether there are records to show good conduct to begin with. Kasi I understand that kailangan merong monthly record of good conduct in black and white to be submitted to the MSEC, and by which the MSEC can make an evaluation of the person deprived of liberty. In this case, it's Pemberton. So it goes to that question po na how does the Pemberton camp prove good conduct? Is there anything in black and white to show that there is good conduct?
Yung pong Bucor, meron pong pinapadala sa Camp Aguinaldo na guard niya. Ito po ay nandun 7 days a week, 24 hours a day at naobserbahan naman po ang kanyang conduct. But as to whether they actually counted on all days, yan po nga ang naging problema ng ating Pangulo na sinabi niya, ni-resolve niya by giving
Nawala yata.
ma'am,
not absolute pardon, by pardoning him.
Ma'am, pakiulit po yung part yun.
Ma'am, pakiulit lang po.
Ma'am, pakiulit po yung part yun.
Nakamute, na-mute yata siya.
May tumawag po sa akin, may tumatawag kaya
Ay, sorry po.
naputol.
Pakiulit lang po yung na-resolve, sabi yung na-resolve ng Pangulo, pakituloy po doon.
Okay, meron pong mga hindi nagawa na mga procedures, Kaya po, for example, meron pong mga talagang siguro tagasulat kung mabait ba siya o hindi siya mabait, But in this case, apparently, walang gumawa even though meron po siyang gwardya everyday. So sabi ng Pangulo, wala namang report na meron siyang ginagawang masama. So parang i-credit natin siya ng GCTA. Pero parang nga po mawala na yung mga debate kung whether he was good or bad, whether he has served or not served the entire sentence, then he issued the pardon. Because kung meron pong hindi nagawa yung gobyerno natin dun sa pag-obserba sa kanya, sa pagsulat ng kanyang good conduct, then ito po ay problema or kasalanan po ng mga government officials at hindi si Pemberton. And he should not be made to suffer for it.
So that was what the President was referring to as being unfair. Yung hindi na i-record yung if at all good conduct in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yes.
Ma'am, hindi pala kayo nag-request ng pardon or anything like that at wala nga pong umaako ng kahit na ano. Ano po kaya ang nag-udyok sa Pangulo na talagang isulong on his own initiative itong pardon? O baka naman meron po kayong konting panghihimas o paglalakad sa presidente, baka may direct line kayo dyan. Ano ba yan? O paano nangyari?
Wala. Walang-wala po akong direct line at wala po akong alam na meron pong lumapit sa Pangulo natin. I can only speculate kung ano yung dahilan niya. But I think napaliwanag po sa kanya siguro ng DOJ at OSG kung ano talaga nangyari. Na wala pong ginawang records o kung meron pong records na ginawa tungkol sa behavior ni Pemberton, meron pa rin pong gray areas na nagre-remain katulad po nung nakwento ko sa inyo na nakulong siya even before he was formally charged with a crime. So during yung mga pagkakataon pong yun, ano gagawin natin? Hindi naman kasalanan talaga ni Pemberton. So ang tingin ko po, ang naisip ng gobyerno natin, tayo naglagay dun Pagkatas tayo hindi nakagawa ng ating mga duties under the law. And kung tayo matinong country, na matino tayong kausap sa isang, for example, visiting forces agreement, dapat gawin natin yung nararapat. Otherwise, yung international community tingin sa atin, walang kwentang kausap yung bansang yan. Dahil kawawa tayo dyan kung
But
ano-ano lang ang...
wouldn't the more regular recourse have been kung merong failure ng gobyerno in going to the process is to go through the process again and check all the records and go to the process instead of doing a shortcut. Kasi in this case, the process was already moving. Nasa korte na po at inapprove ng korte yung release, meron lang nag-apela at pinag-uusapan na po dun sa hearings. Yun lang, biglang na-shortcut yung proseso na pinag-uusapan through a pardon. Wouldn't it have been more proper for us to let the process move as it should have? Although it is a prerogative of the president, pero may proseso na.
Alam niyo po, kung ibibigay po natin sa korte yung ganyang sitwasyon, pagkatapos sasabihin ng Bucor sa kanila, wala po kaming record Ano po gagawin ng korte? Sabihin, Pemberton, wala ka palang record, umpisahan mo yung service mo ng sentence from day one. Walang record, sorry. Hindi po ba? And would that be justice for him? So hindi po kasalanan ni Pemberton yung sinasabi ng Pangulo, we did not treat him fairly. And under the law po, when there's a sort of parang may pagkakataon ka po kung between good and bad with respect to inmates, you apply what is good for him.
Attorney, when was the last time you talked to your client? Kasi balita namin may balak daw siyang pag-uwi niya Mag-aaral siya. Ano yung pag-aaralan niya?
Kanina pong hapon, nagpunta po ako doon kasama, sumabay rin po ako doon sa pagkuha ng fingerprints po ng Bucor. Medyo matagal-tagal na rin po, nasabi niya sa akin, gusto niya po magtapos ng college. Pagkatapos,
ano yung kurso po niya?
Ano nasabi sa akin?
Ano yung kurso niya?
Philosophy po.
Okay. Tapos, itutuloy po
in-encourage ko po siyang mag-take up ng law.
Itutuloy po ba niya yung apology? Di ba sabi, he's ready daw to issue an apology, although hindi daw face-to-face. Itutuloy pa ba niya yan?
Itutuloy niya po. Kaya lang medyo magulo pa po itong mga panahon na to. So, hindi ko po masabi sa inyo kung anong araw niya magagawa yung kanyang apology letter.
According to Attorney Suarez, kayo raw ang humihimok sa kanya na mag-apologize. Hindi siya nagkukusa at hindi raw siya nagkusa nito nakaraang 5 taon. Anong masasabi niyo dyan?
Wag ho kayong maniniwala kay Attorney Suarez. Nung isang araw lang, sabi niya, hindi nag-a-apologize. Ngayon, nang mag-a-apologize, sabi niya, hindi niya tatanggapin. Ang gulo ho So anyway, kung tanggapin niya o hindi, magsusulat po si Pemberton ng letter of apology. Hindi ko po siya pinipilit. Wala po akong power para pilitin yung tao na gumawa ng letter na ayaw niyang gawin.
Nagrereklamo din po siya na dumiretso daw kayo sa kliyente niya in the damages.
Alam niyo, hindi po ako kumikibo dyan, pero ngayon kikibo po ako, ha? As early as 2017, yung pong si Mrs. Laude, nag-contact po ng isang pare. At sabi po sa akin, duda siya sa kanyang mga kliyent, sa mga abogado niya. Kaya raw po siya duda, nung pong burol ni Jeffrey Laude, meron na po siyang ibang napiling abogado. May nauna pong lumapit sa kanya. Ang hindi ko po maintindihan kung si Dean Agabi ng UP or si Evelyn Arsua. So nakuha niya na po yung abogadong yun. Pero lumapit raw po yung kanyang mga lawyers ngayon at sabi, kami na po ninyong abogado kasi pro bono kami. Hindi namin kayo sisingilin. So ngayon po, bago matapos yung kaso, eto po yung pong kanina sinasabi ko, pari po ang nagte-text sa akin. At si Mrs. Laudy po ang nagsasabi. As early as 2017, gusto po akong makausap ni Mrs. Laude na solo, hindi po kasama yung mga lawyers niya dahil duda raw po siya sa mga lawyers niya. Okay? So ngayon po, sabi sa akin ni Marilu Laude, ito po, August 25 ng gabi, sinabi niya sa akin, nalaman niya na lang, siningin na lang siya ng kanyang mga lawyer nung pong patapos na yung kaso. Nagulat raw sila at hindi ang gano'n ang kanilang usapan. O so sabi sa akin ni Marilu, pero nandyan na yan, matatapos na yung kaso, paano kami kukuha ng ibang abogado? So, that's the reason po, nung babayaran na, hindi ko po kinukontak yung lawyer nila. Because sabi po ni Marilu, pag kinontak ko yon, kailangan bayaran nila. Okay? So ngayon po, alam nyo yung utos ng korte, napaka distinct no? Very definite. Sabi, magbayad po kami ng 4,655,250 pesos. Pag kinontak ko po, ay low battery na po ako. Teka muna po.
Sige po.
Pag kinontak,
Pwede pa po. Pwede pa po.
okay.
Naririnig po namin.
Okay. Sige, pag kinontak ko po yung lawyers nila, wala pong tulong na mabibigayan kay Marilu because eksakto yung damages na pinabibigay po ng korte. Diba po? It's not as if there is a trial na kailangan mag-object o protektahan yung kanyang rights. Pero hindi po eh. Ang inuutos lang sa amin ng korte, bayaran nyo yung 4,655,250. Wala po akong discretion na bawasan yun, dagdagan yun, o wala. So, hindi po kailangan na protektahan siya ng lawyer niya. In fact, I was protecting her from her lawyers. I'm sorry to say this, but that is the truth. Okay? Gusto ko po mabigay sa kanya ng pera ng buo para makapag-decide siya, magbabayad ba siya o hindi. Because hindi po ganun ang usapan nila. At yan po ay according to both Marilu and her mother. And at the very end po, hanggang itong August, kausap ko po yung nanay niya. Sabi niya, ayaw niya pong magbayad ng legal fees dahil hindi po yan ang kanilang usapan. So hindi po ako ang villain, hindi po ako yung masama.
Alright. Okay, maraming salamat po sa inyo. Attorney Rowena Flores.
Rowena Garcia Flores.
Salamat din po.
Thank you.
Sige po, bye.
Thank you po.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nakuha na kami.
Hindi yung usapan.
Oo nga eh. Sige. Kaya muna tayo.
Okay, muna tayo. Umusap pa yung telepono ko. Sige. We'll just go into a break, so please stay with us.
Welcome back to the Chiefs. We are now in the final stage of our conversation. And now joining us is Professor Guido David of the UP Octa Research Team. Good evening po again. Professor, welcome back to the Chiefs. Medyo mainit po yung usapan namin kanina kaya naghahanap kami ngayon ng konting good news. Balita namin ano na, flattening curve na tayo.
Yes, we
Kayo po yung Jose Maricha namin ngayon.
okay.
Flattening
Okay,
curve na tayo, biglang natakot ngayon yung gobyerno. Teka muna, baka mag-relax daw lahat ng ano, baka maging complacent daw mga tao because of what you said. After kaiintay natin ng flattening, talaga bang flattening na sustainable ba yun?
Yes, nakagulat nga. Mukha na kaming apologies tuloy ngayon because and yun nga, ayaw na tanggapin ng government yung aming findings. Well, kidding aside, I mean, that was just a joke. Tinatanggap naman nila, but of course, they and we express our syempre, our caution. We want to express the message na we should be cautious even though nagde-decrease na yung trend. And of course, just to clarify, marami kasing nagtatanong, marami kasing definitions about flattening the curve. People look at different curves. Ano nga yung curve na flatten? And the definition we use is we are flattening the curve if the number of cases is decreasing. And totoo naman yan. 3 weeks straight, nagde-decrease. Hindi flattened yung curve ng total number of cases. If that's the case, 0 new cases. Matagal pa yun. So that's not the kind of flattening na sinasabi natin. And anyway, just to remove ambiguity, ang sinasabi natin is we're on a decline. 3 weeks straight of decreasing cases, reproduction numbers less than 1, positivity rate going down, hospital utilization is going down, improving. So all indicators are looking good in NCR though, because we have some
NCR.
hotspots. Yes, NCR and Calabarzon. So there are hotspots like Bacolod and Iloilo and Tacloban and a few places sa Mindanao na nagkakaroon ng increases sa cases. So I think the whole country we're gonna be COVID-free by the end of the year. I mean, we'll see, pero we have to be cautious about what we say.
Okay, how much of
Prof,
this?
just to be clear po, we're not looking at only one number, diba? You're looking at a pattern.
Yes, it's a pattern. The number of new cases is going down. Yung positivity rate is going down. Number of tests is going up. Yung reproduction number is also going down. So those are all the indicators are headed in the right direction. Yes, any question? Sorry.
Yes, Professor. How much of this improvement can be attributed to the MECQ declared last August 3 to August 18? Was that a big help in improving the situation?
Yeah, that was actually a big help because during that time, the reproduction number decreased from 1.5 to 1.1. So ibig sabihin, we were almost at the reproduction number of 1 at that time. And then since we had the GCQ, like decreased pa further yung reproduction number. So of course, our worry, especially si Professor Anjit, is that once we relax the quarantine, we might have an increase in numbers again. I mean, I was also worried, and people are generally worried because that happened the last time we moved to GCQ. So far, we're not seeing the effects of relaxing the quarantine. That would cause an increase in the number of cases. Instead, patuloy na nagde-decreasing number of cases. And this is good news, which means maybe we can sustain this under GCQ.
Yun nga, to what do you attribute this? Could this be to behavior? Can we attribute it to a really changed behavior, let's say an improved behavioral pattern? Or could it just be the number of tests that have been conducted since MECQ was lifted?
Okay. Definitely, it's but the increase in the number of tests helps, but it won't cause the numbers to decrease. So that's not the reason. And the change in behavior, I'd like to think na mas compliant na tao, yung mga tao, but I mean, sometimes when I go out, I see maraming taong nagka-cluster sa labas. So maybe there is a change in behavior that affected this, but we can attribute it. Well, yes, yung increase in tests helps to determine the number of you know confirmed cases. Then yung localized lockdowns that are being implemented, that's helping. Improvements in contact tracing is also helping, and then yung improved isolation and quarantine, that's also helping. So that's on the side of the national and local government. Sa mga tao naman, I think wearing the face shield is actually helping. So maybe that's the game changer. So let's see. I mean, of course, if numbers start increasing again, then babawiin kay sinabi ko na maybe it's the face shields because but right now we'll take what's working, and whatever's working, we want to continue doing this para patuloy na decrease natin yung number of cases because the trend is now going down. So we want to continue this trend until maybe the number of new cases is down to double digits na lang. I mean, medyo matagal pa yun, but that's the eventual goal.
And there are in fact more positive developments, ano? Madadating daw yung mga antigen test, saliva test na immediate result, no? And more quarantine facilities, more laboratories. So anong projection niya? Since we're talking about the sustainability of this flattening, by the end of September, by the end of October, meron na ba kayong ganong kalayong projection? Kung ano na magiging sitwasyon? If all these positive developments are maintained?
Wala ping for end of October because we usually take it one segment at a time. By end of September, we're projecting 310 to 330,000 total cases. And I know some people may seem alarmed. Bakit
Yes.
marami? Well, this is the total because the total will always increase habang meron pang virus. But actually, this would be a good result for us kasi with the 310 to 330,000 cases, the active cases there would only be maybe 40,000 or less. It means the number of active cases is going down. Actually, it's already going down.
Yeah.
The decreasing number of active cases, we have checked that, and the theoretical and the actual numbers are showing that there is a decrease in active cases. So kumaga sa mountain, pababa na tayo in terms of yung active cases. So hopefully this will continue.
In the meantime, by way of response, ano pa yung gusto nyong makita to contribute to the flattening? Ano pa yung pwedeng gawin?
Well, you mentioned yung the thing that yung gusto namin makita, yung antigen and saliva tests. We heard positive things about these new tests. These are rapid tests with a high level of accuracy and a faster turnaround time. Mahirap kasi yung turnaround time natin na 5 to 6 days because it makes it harder to do contact tracing. Kung 5 days ay nakalipas, and then it's also harder to do isolation and quarantine. Kung matagaling nakalipas before you find out na positive or negative ka pala. And it's also harder to do lockdowns, localized lockdowns, because you do 2-week localized lockdowns, pero 1 week lumabas yung result, then you have to have it for 3 weeks. So everything is affected by the turnaround time of yung test kits. But if we can do it 15 minutes, may results na. That would actually make a very big difference in how we manage the pandemic. And definitely it will, we believe it will further reduce transmissions and help us beat the virus faster. So I think yung isang major point that's a problem is yung turnaround time na ng tests, ng PCR tests.
Right.
Yung Negros, nabanggit yung Negros nung nakaraan that you were concerned about Negros. Do you still see the same problem with Negros? I mean, are you still concerned with Negros or have things flattened out a bit?
Hindi yata narinig. Professor,
Can you hear us?
nag-freeze yata siya.
Nag-freeze siya.
Freeze. Nawala siya.
Oh.
Nawala siya.
Okay.
Bakulod,
Tanong mo, Ed.
Ha? Hindi kasi nabanggit niya na parang yung Negros. May concern siya about Negros.
CQ nga.
Pero, MECQ, Bacolod City, sa Calanaw del Sur.
Yes. Net
Mm.
Yung dalawa ngayon, hindi naman Negros.
Yes.
Yan ang dalawang concern nila.
Right.
At tanong ko sana kung pwede na tayo mag-MGCQ Mababalik pa ba siya? Kailan tayo pwede
Ako nga, gusto ko malaman kung magpapasko tayo ng medyo maluwag-liwag eh.
Hindi, kung
Pwede ka na
mag-MGCQ,
magtagaytay.
kailan kaya
Pwede na ka magtagaytay.
Pwede ka na
Ayun
magtagay.
lang, sana hindi magkagulo. Pwede na magtagaytay. Sana lang mag-albrutong talo ulit.
You know?
Ayun na, pwede na magtagay tayo. Wala na daw mga checkpoints from Manila. Pwede naman masyal mga tao, yung mga negosyo doon, naghahanap na ng customer, mamamatay na. Ang mga negosyo doon, kawawa naman. Kaya gusto niya tumalaw na tayo doon.
Okay.
Basta
I'm not sure if Prof. David can come back pa kasi it's 9:30 already. It's just about time for us to say goodbye.
Tingnan natin yung MGCQ. Kailan tayo pwede? Kung maibabalik pa siya.
So are we waiting for him to come back or ano?
Nag-freeze kasi.
Okay, wala pa rin daw. Okay.
Wala pa rin.
Wala na? So, okay, sige. So,
Tayo sa good news na
basta pampalamig na ng ulo ngayong gabi.
Oo nga. Umiinit kanina usapan natin. At least medyo nag-cool yung
Okay, sige.
Okay.
Magkaytay na lang kayo.
Okay.
Para swabe. Sana lang yung tao mag-cooperate na. Okay. That will be all for this edition of the CHIEFS. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. I'm Edwin Gaupo News.
I'm Ami Paminton of the Philippine Star.
And I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5, and we are One News.